In the heart of Africa, ladies and gentlemen, the Sahel region is facing immense or huge challenges or difficulties. Burkina Faso, one of the countries or states at the center of this struggle, is actually making a bold statement about the external forces at play. The country's foreign minister, ladies and gentlemen, Karamoko Jean Traore, okay, he's also called Traore, recently spoke out warning that foreign support for terrorism is actually a grave threat, not only to Burkina Faso but to all of Africa.
First, it was in a posture of contempt when the delegate Kiev announced it, explicitly declaring the full extent of the backing they offer to that terrorist organization that harms our people. We are of the opinion that when an incident happens in Mali, the pain is felt in Burkina. If an incident strikes Burkina Faso, the resulting pain is equally felt in both Mali and Niger. We are one region, and what we truly desire is for the African people, in their entirety, become aware of this situation. Destabilizing one African country is a hard blow to all of Africa. And truly, this outside interference is not directed solely against one nation in isolation. It is against Africa's overall integration dynamic. It opposes Africa's move toward autonomy. You cannot discuss matters within a specific area and on a strategic point without the key players who can provide you with the most accurate and effective interpretation. And that's the mistake the African Union made for ages, saying, okay, we are under sanctions, and that was accepted, we know it. But our ambition was to say, if you want to understand the situation in our countries, you have to listen to those who are from our countries. But that was not the case. So there was a kind of chronic adherence to the principle, leaving realism aside. What must be understood is that the security situation in our countries doesn't only concern the Central Sahel. The Central Sahel is the shield for all of West Africa. And those three nations are currently striving for this shield to consolidate. This is to say that it is heavy.
Yes, the situation in the Sahel is actually delicate and fragile, and it is not just about one country or state, it is about the entire continent. According to Traore, ladies and gentlemen, destabilizing a single African state or country can actually send shockwaves across the region, undoing years of progress and of course undermining efforts towards African unity. He stressed that this is not a challenge Burkina Faso can actually face alone, and their response must be one of collective action. As Burkina Faso takes a stand, it is also calling for unity among its neighbors. The Alliance of Sahel states is actively working together in solidarity to actually confront this particular growing threat. The question is very simple: can it truly bring stability to a region that is actually being plagued by instability for long? The road ahead, ladies and gentlemen, is uncertain, but what is actually clear is that Burkina Faso is actually ready to face the fight with a strong commitment to its people and the future of Africa. The country's leaders are actually pushing for a united, peaceful response to external interference. Ladies and gentlemen, before we actually dive more into this, if you're actually interested in African analytical developments like this, please make sure that again to support this local community. First of all, like, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell, because we want more essential and very important people like you to build this community where you can actually talk about our own narrative. So make sure that again to join us now by doing the needful. Thank you so much for your understanding. Now let's go deeper. The unfolding situation in the Sahel is not just a political or military matter, ladies and gentlemen. It is also a battle of narratives. As the region faces threat, the role of the media in shaping public perception is critical. According to Karamoko Traore, the information landscape in Africa is actually filled with outlets that may not have the continent's best interest at heart. Traore pointed out that some media organizations are actually spreading misinformation, creating false narratives or stories that actually slow down progress and of course division. In his view, ladies and gentlemen, this has been one of the best or most significant obstacles to the region's advancement towards genuine unity and integration. But in the face of these challenges, there are voices like Sputnik Africa offering a different perspective. For Burkina Faso, these alternative viewpoints are vital in breaking through the noise of misinformation. The growing support for diverse media voices is crucial. Traore believes that the continent needs more balanced media resources to tackle disinformation and, of course, present the truth only. This is not just about reporting news, it is about shaping a narrative that can actually unite rather than divide. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if media can actually be a tool for unity, then it has the potential to guide Africa towards its rightful future. But what does this shift in media power mean for the wider world? That is the question. And how can Africa use its media resources to actually better control the narratives around its challenges and success? The situation is actually evolving, and of course, every new layer has a greater sense of agency. The struggle for stability in Africa doesn't just lie in the hands of individual nations or states. It also involves collective regional efforts. Burkina Faso has long been advocating for a more practical, realistic approach in addressing these challenges or difficulties. When the African Union, ladies and gentlemen, for short AU, announced a new approach towards the Sahel region, Karamboko Traore welcomed this shift in tone. Ladies and gentlemen, Traore emphasized that the key to solving Africa's challenges or difficulties lies in understanding the situation from the ground up. He applauded the AU or African Union for recognizing the importance of gathering information, listening, and of course working together. For Traore, this shift or change represents a necessary move towards realism rather than abstract political ideals. This new approach could actually signal a turning point. Whilst Burkina Faso, along with Mali and of course Niger, has made strides in countering terrorism, the regional impact is far reaching. As the Sahel continues to face external threat, the importance of a united African voice becomes clearer. If the AU can actually successfully partner with countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and of course Niger, it would actually provide the framework for a peaceful, prosperous future across the continent of Africa. Looking towards the future, the question remains: what is next for the Sahel and for Africa as a whole? The steps taken today will actually have long-lasting effects on the region's stability and of course Africa's path toward greater integration, ladies and gentlemen. Whilst Burkina Faso and of course its neighbors have made significant progress in fighting terrorism, ladies and gentlemen, the road ahead is still challenging. The alliance of Sahel states and the African Union have laid the foundation for cooperation, but the journey will actually require continued solidarity and of course commitment. What happens in the coming months and of course years will actually set the stage for Africa's future. If the region can actually remain united in its efforts, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? It could actually serve as a model for others on how to confront external threats whilst building a more stable and of course integrated continent. It is not just about security, it is about fostering growth, unity, and of course self-reliance. Africa's success will actually depend or rely on the actions taken today, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me, and the responsibility lies with leaders, media outlets, and of course citizens to contribute to this collective effort. Africa is actually standing at a crossroads. The choices made now, ladies and gentlemen, will actually define the continent, for generations. But Burkina Faso's voice in this conversation have been a significant one, and of course, its effort toward unity, stability, and of course independence are just the beginning. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.